Greetings, greetings. It's another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. We have a very special edition today. We're going to speak out to the community, out to City Council, out to the mayor. We're asking you to stop your movements in TREME, stop your movements in Congo Square, and we're inviting all to call in and participate today on my phone lines at area code 845-277-9143. 845-277-9143. We also welcome you to plug in your webcams and turn on your mics and join us for this very special edition of the Power Lunch, Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Greetings, Cheryl Austin. Welcome, beloved. I'll bring you on momentarily. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. I'm humble. I'm excited. We have work to do, and today is just one more step in stopping that progress in TREME, stopping that progress in Armstrong Park. So come on in, come on in. All is a blessing. Welcome, welcome to my international listeners and audience. Thank you, UK and Canada and all states in the US for being present with us. I'm so grateful for Egypt and Niger and Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you for listening. Kenya, thank you so much for listening. Morocco and South Africa. Brazil, welcome again, Brazil. Greetings, Argentina. I'm always truly amazed at who checks in, who listens in, who participates in this platform, and indeed I am grateful. But today we're calling you to action. Today we're calling you to participate. Today we're asking you to write letters and get involved and march and protest with us and stop this movement on Congo Square. Stop this movement on what's left of this beautiful and historic TREME. So I welcome you one and all. Please come on in. There's room for everyone. Greetings, beloved Ashley Allen. Greetings, greetings. Thank you so much for being with us again. My beloved Shamafia Rothschild, Alafia beloved. Greetings to you and yours. Welcome, welcome. Come on in to another edition of Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is truly and indeed a blessing. All is a blessing. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. We have a powerful show, a powerful set of panelists. Our mothers, our women, me, they're standing up as always on the front lines for the community, and I'm going to bring them here forward with you momentarily. Come on in, bring beloved Chef Bougie. Welcome, welcome, beloved. Thank you so much to you and your wife, Arisha, Mochiba Arisha. Come on in. Greetings, my beloved sister Wapani. Thank you so much for checking in with us and being a part of this powerful rendition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Oh, I got some food for you. Some spiritual food for you today. Some historic and legendary food for you today. So come on and stay with us. Share some time with us. Greetings, Nina Oloye. Thank you so much, beloved. I got your email. I am with you. I am for you in your endeavors. My cousins are checking in. Greetings, Otun, Ifatomiwa. My beloved cousin, thank you for being with us. Come on in. Greetings, greetings. Welcome, welcome. And the phone lines are open at area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, do press the number 1. That raises your hand for me, and I will bring you into this conversation. All is a blessing. All is a blessing. Eshu Alegwana Kosi Were, Awo Onlo Uto Ne Iwo, Ada Afanbo Osi, Obatala Mi Ita Ne Ebo Onilio Abane Shu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. That one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scatter to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May our Ebo reach a rune. May our Ebos be accepted. May our Ebo allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say Ashe. It is indeed a very special edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently today to my regular tuning in, listening, participating audience. But indeed, we invite your active participation in this conversation. Whether you be local, whether you be national, whether you be international, we appreciate and we ask for your active participation in this call. I want to start by saying divine all greetings and salutations, one and all. I am the Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective, understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is indeed my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, my reiteration, and it is my ever-living reality. All is a blessing is crucial to the very foundation of my inner standing, my being, my walk, my work, my demonstration along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. And it is indeed the place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine all blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe. Today is this wonderful May 26, 2021, and I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you now, live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum universally, from this working temple of the House of the DivinePrince, Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central LLC, in this beautiful, historic, legendary, most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeya life path and journey, passing down the great Obeya stick, along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, and indeed, as our beloved elder Denise Augustine would say, our sacred stories, our sacred stories. And today we're here to talk about and to share our sacred stories from locals, from those born and bred in the city of New Orleans, from participants throughout the community, transplants, visitors, and indeed we need everyone involved, not just the cultural people, not just the masking Black culture, not just the Indians, not just the baby dolls. We need the brass bands, we need the bicycle clubs, we need the walking crews, we need the French Quarter, the Ninth Ward, the 7th Ward. We indeed need the city to protect this history, to protect this culture, and to protect what still remains of the land and the artifacts and the agriculture, and indeed the space where many of us demonstrate this beautiful culture and tradition that you all come to New Orleans to see and to participate in and to enjoy. So I'm going to begin to bring on my co-hosts, my community, my village, these beautiful queens that are standing up right now to preserve our culture and our history. I first want to introduce Cheryl Austin, the director of Greater TREME Cultural Center, or Greater TREME Consortium LLC, Greater TREME Consortium LLC. But I see it also as a cultural center, because without the community, without the landmarks, without the location, where would we be, and what indeed would we be doing? So I'm grateful for you coming on and using my space, my shared space. I refer to this as a shared sacred space each and every day that I broadcast this show. So indeed, it is more sacred today now that the queens and the mothers and the sisters and the wives and these culture bearers and these healers and these practitioners are here now to share with you what I've been offering you in this space for over 12 years. And that is indeed why I'm here, why I stay here, while I will continue to be a part of this community, and you'll get a deeper understanding today. So greetings, Cheryl Austin. Let me also bring on Osetowa, beloved Osetowa Amor Aminkum. Welcome, beloved. She's also going to speak and share today and do a little teaching and do a little activism and invite you to be a part of this work. I want to bring on my cousins, my blood cousins, Otun, Ifatomiwa. Greetings, beloved. Thank you so much for always being so consistent and present with us. We certainly appreciate your light and your love and your support. And then my other blood cousin, Oloye, Ifawole, Oladeji, Efuntade. Greetings, beloved. Thank you also for joining us and being a part of this conversation and helping us to spread this message and spread this activism. Morgan, if you will, I'll bring you on screen. You can stay muted, if you will, until you're ready to be a part of the conversation. But we certainly appreciate your participation as well and your support. And we're going to have a very special demonstration today by the beloved Amy Stelly. She has a slideshow presentation, which I'm going to bring up on the screen for you momentarily. So Cheryl, if you would like to begin, then Osetowa, and then we'll go to Amy Stelly. All is a blessing. And I'll check in the chat. Cheryl, unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. There you go. Come on in.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ty, the Prince. Greetings. I feel so honored to be here. This is my first time doing a podcast, and it could not have come at a better time with the issues that we're facing in TREME. So thank you, thank you. Thank you to the audience also for giving us the time to basically vent and hopefully turn around the decision that the mayor has to relocate City Hall into the Municipal Auditorium, which is in TREME. So I'm Cheryl Austin. I am the Executive Director of Greater TREME Consortium. We are an outgrade of the TREME Community Improvement Association. We have been advocating and have been activists for over 60 years, trying to save and maintain the goodness, the culture of TREME. I'm a lifelong resident. And I'm also a mother, a grandmother, and I'm also the neighbor of, I call him Ty. I know he's a prince and I know he's divine, but I just love one syllable, so I call him Ty. I'm just going to give a brief history of why we're here, and then I would like for Amy to come on and do the presentation along with the other hosts that have comments. TREME that has been for 60 years. As a girl growing up in TREME, a young girl going into adulthood, a teenager, I watched the destruction of where Armstrong Park now sits. As a matter of fact, I attended the junior high school there. We had no idea what was going on as a kid. Like what the city is doing now, without information, without talking to people in the community. One day we woke up and half of the people were gone. Their houses had become abandoned, windows had become broken, doors were thrown off of the houses. We had no idea what was going on until Mr. Jim Hayes started informing everyone. He became one of the world's known activists and really put the Sixth Ward TREME on the map because he refused to see come into the neighborhood without informing the community and without any information as to what was going to happen. But what we found out, what the plans were, after those houses had been not demolished, but while the people were moving out, we found out that the city's plan was not our plan, and that was to build a cultural center at that site. After demonstrating and becoming activists in the community, and this was not by people who came in or around, these were the people that actually lived in the neighborhood that saw their communities being destroyed. What was found out was that the city had a plan different from what the community had, how the community had been living. Their plan never came to fruition. The name Louis Armstrong Park was something that came into being because they did not complete their plan. The plan was to demolish the houses from North Rampart Street to North Claiborne and Basin to St. Philip. And because of the activism, that was stopped. And the park is really a compromise to stop the activism. The park along with the TREME Center. So fast forward 50 years later, where we are right now, we're still fighting that same fight, except the city now wants to move City Hall within the park at the Municipal Auditorium. And this is something that we cannot and will not allow. It's not right. It's not fair. We're not being listened to. We have not been engaged in any communications as a community. And we just want the mayor to stop, listen, and make a decision that this is not a good fit for the TREME community.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm here. I thought maybe you had more to say, but yeah, I'm here. I absolutely agree. You said you wanted to.
I could say a lot more as to why. Mm-hmm.
Did you want to elaborate more, or did you want to?
There's a delay.
Yeah, your connection is a little bit weak for some reason.
Well, I guess it's bad.
It's okay.
But the reason why we all feel this is not a good fit is because of the culture here. As a kid growing up in TREME, the first thing we heard in the morning was Eggman passing through the street singing. He had rags. And in the evening, especially on a summer day, we heard the Watermelon Man. All around us was sounds, all around us was music, all around us was the culture of TREME. It's organic. Things have changed. We don't expect TREME to be the way it was 50, not even 20 years ago. But things drastically changed, and with the mayor suggesting and making a move to move City Hall to the Municipal Auditorium would totally destroy the TREME community. We are facing 60% of short-term rentals right now. And as we see it as an organization, TREME will no longer have a voting voice. Short-term rentals, most of them are owned by the same person. That person only has one voice. The residents will totally be gone. And so City Hall will to do whatever they want to do. And that's really at the heart of why, it's at the heart of why we can't let this happen. Because TREME will not have a voting voice.
Ashe. So we're going to bring on Miss Amy Stelling next. I know she's kind of mobile, so I want to give her an opportunity to speak and share her perspective and point of view. I also have a slideshow ready to go when Amy's ready for me to present it. Greetings, beloved.
Greetings. Thank you for having me on. And I am also the DivinePrince Tai Emeka's neighbor. I'm a lifelong resident of Treme, although I have lived other places. I've never left home. And I live in the house that I grew up in, which is about 2 blocks from the Prince and Cheryl. So I too think that this is a really, really bad idea for a lot of reasons. It's just going to totally wipe out what is left of the neighborhood and definitely impact the culture that everyone knows and loves in New Orleans. So the things that you identify New Orleans with may not be there anymore if we go forward. So why don't we start the slideshow to show people what the mayor is proposing?
Yes, ma'am. Give me a second here.
All right.
Okay.
And what I would like to say is that the mayor is doing this very secretly. As Cheryl said, she's not involving community. She's not even involving the business community. So we're asking the mayor to rethink the relocation of City Hall, and we're going to look at her request for qualifications for those of you who are not in America or who may speak a different land use language. The request for qualifications means she's looking for someone to carry out her plan. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of the site. As you can see, what's in the yellow is what's under consideration. There's the Treme Center that Cheryl spoke about, which I call the booby prize because that's what we got when they took all the land. But it has become, like the Municipal Auditorium, a beloved asset in our community. I swim there regularly. It's got a heated pool, things you really don't find in many, many Black neighborhoods. So even though it was born out of pain, it is something that we have come to value and treasure. You can see there's Lehman Playground, which will come into play in a minute, and the Mahalia Jackson Theater, which is right in the middle. And there are some interesting dynamics with that too. Let's move to the next slide. So the mayor's looking for a master plan. She wants to redevelop the Municipal Auditorium in Armstrong Park, and her goal is to return it to a more vibrant and useful service to the Treme neighborhood. I would argue that we're already vibrant. And if you know anything about Treme, any time of the day or night, you might hear music, there might be a parade, there are always people talking, always on the street. And we support one another. So this goal to develop a master plan for a vision to make us better, I say is bogus. And the city sees it as a need to redevelop our community. Next slide. Interestingly enough, her goals, she wants her whoever wins this to review ongoing and future development projects, both planned and proposed future. First on the list, the Treme neighborhood. Secondly, the Claiborne Corridor, which was our retail district back in the 60s before I-10 came through and totally devastated the economic base. The Claiborne Corridor was the only place that Black people could shop comfortably because when we went into downtown New Orleans, we weren't accepted there. Craig Elementary, which is across the street from the Municipal Auditorium site, that school was recently redone, and again, she wants to replan it. Treme Community Center, which I spoke about, and then the French Quarter neighborhood and business district. She's already trying to make movement to redesign some things in the French Quarter. They are not working, and those people are against her proposals. Next slide. Timeline for her master plan. She's already released, so she's looking for someone to do this work for her. She has put on what is called a cone of silence, meaning the city is not talking to anybody who is bidding to do this work. She's already behind. Her deadlines for a conference was May 10th originally. She made it to May 21st. We heard some very interesting things in that particular conference. one of which was, we're supposed to totally disregard what you will see in a minute. That is what she sent out to bidders, but now she's telling them, don't worry about that. I really don't want to do that. I believe what's written. Her capital projects director said, believe what's written, the written word. You will see what the written word says. And then in June, which is not far from now, she expects to select someone and move forward. Next slide. I left this slide in. She did want someone to manage the project, but somewhere along the line, she decided that that wasn't necessary, and she removed it from the website on May 20th, on or about, thanks to Cheryl for spotting that. But you can see it had a similar timeline to the master planning schedule. Next slide. This is a little bit blurry, but we are almost 4 months. So you can see she started her clock on March 1st, 2021. And the 4 months brings us to July. Thank you. And then we can count 24 months, no, more than that, 48 months. And then she expects to actually cut the ribbon and open a new city hall in the Armstrong Park and the Municipal Auditorium. Next slide. These are her preliminary architectural diagrams. I circled the thing about the proposed parking. She's looking to bring in a minimum of 937 parking spaces into our neighborhood. There's a school right across the street from the site. You can imagine when school lets out, or when school is taking in, the children having to negotiate 900 cars. If you are a parent, if you are a thinking person, you will see that this is a ridiculous notion. Next slide, please. But in order to realize her plan to bring in all of these cars, she'll have to change the zoning and land use categories. Right now, we have open space designated on that particular site. She would have to change it and put something more intense there to allow her garage, but that even calls for a special permit for her to be able to build it. Also, on the main site, which you can see OS.R, which means this is a regional park, it's regional open space. We can't have regular office, but we can have government office. I can understand something like a caretaker's office or an administrative office that runs the park and makes sure everything's good, the security, but not a government building. So if we can't have a regular office, why should we welcome a government office that closes at 5 o'clock and won't bring anything to the table for the residents of TREME? Next slide, please. These are her concepts. We can go to the next slide. Her first slide is a tax credit concept. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with tax credits, but she would have to totally preserve the historic nature of the building. And in this case, it's not only the outside, but there is a historic concert hall in there. And if she does that, then she can get credit via taxes for doing that particular type of work and participating in preservation. Next slide. And of course, this tells more of what she would be doing. She would restore it to its 1928 state, but then add a new 90,000 square foot city hall. And she says she'll set it back so it's not so harsh for Villery Street, which is a residential street. Next slide. What was interesting is that we discovered by looking in through these proposals that she would remove our fire station. New Orleans, and TREME in particular, is a neighborhood of wooden houses. If she takes away our fire station, we'll be dependent on 3 fire stations that are outside of our neighborhood on a very active day, 2 of which are in the French Quarter. If the French Quarter is having a really active day and traffic is slow, can you imagine having to wait for a fire truck and your house is burning? That has happened in TREME. There was a property across the street from that fire station that caught on fire. The city closed it, Thank you. It's called Bertha's. It was a beloved place. We did not know our fire station had been closed. Bertha's caught on fire and burned to the ground before a fire truck could really save the building. They got there, but it was really too little too late. The fire station is back open, but now we face the threat of losing it. And that is a life safety issue for those of us who live in Treme. Next slide, please. With this particular scheme, which means, you know, she would preserve the history and historic nature of the building, it looks pretty much like it does now. We have the Municipal Auditorium, the Mahalia Jackson, the Treme Center, and the rest of the site is pretty much open. We have a pump station there, which is actually quite beautiful architecturally, but there's nothing else. It's pretty much open space, a lot of asphalt. We need permeable paving and more trees and grass, but at least the site is open. Next slide. And I'd like to say the mayor authored that slide a year ago. But then secretly over the past year, she has developed 3 more concepts. This is the first one, where she would demolish existing annex buildings and put the city hall inside of the auditorium, build parking, build 4 floors. She would restore the way the building looks, but pretty much we would lose the character of the Municipal Auditorium, particularly on the inside. Next slide. And this is what it looks like. So if you look at 7B, that is a parking garage now for 1,200 cars. So you can see she has really upped the ante and put in a significantly more amount of cars. 7C and 7A are also garages. So in our neighborhood, she would bring in not the 700 or 800 that you saw in her first concept. She's boosted it up to 2,600 cars on that particular site. On St. Philip Street, where you can see building 6 and 7, there is a school. So she would have all of this going on right across the street from the school. A little bit about the concept. The building number 6, she would ask to bring in the civil court. The Municipal Auditorium would then serve as our city hall. I can tell you the staff at the school is very concerned about having any kind of court building across the street from the school, because there could be custody issues for some children who are in that school. If the parents are not getting along, then the children become vulnerable to things like kidnapping, because all a disgruntled parent has to do is go across the street and get their child. But the blue dotted lines show how she's going to funnel all these 2,600 cars out of the site. And you can see from this, it's one way in and one way out. I can't imagine how she expects that to work. Next slide. You can see now the site has become really much more massive with buildings. She is holding to an 80-foot height limit, but ours is only 50 feet. So she's going to have to up the ante with the height limit and then build all of these garages and much more massive buildings on the site. Next slide. In concept 2, she would restore the facade of the auditorium, completely repurpose it, which means it's going to be a gut rehab, demolish the annex. For those of you who have seen the annex to that building, that's a good idea. That's the only good idea. And then she's going to, again, put the civil court back with parking. So let's go to the next slide. Again, 7A now would put the parking right across the street from the school. The civil court, building 6, would be against Villery Street. There are 1-story houses there, some of them brand new. When those people purchased those properties or moved into those homes, they did not expect a court building to be across the street from their homes, nor did they expect to have to live with 2,600 cars going in and out of the site. You can see now she's, from the blue dotted lines, she's opened up the circulations, which means St. Anne Street, Dumaine Street, which is the street that the DivinePrince, Cheryl, and I live on, would be subjected to a lot of traffic. And then now she's made two ways out to Basin Street. So you can see that with 2,600 cars on the site, serving a civil court and a city hall, and, you know, if there are other activities, then people are free to come and park. This is going to be a horror during Mardi Gras because people will come to go to parades. I can imagine she's going to charge them a handsome fee for parking in their 2,600 garage and then shuttle them. The neighborhood will be ruined. Next slide. Again, the massiveness of the buildings and the garages. What I didn't point out in the last slide, but it's the same as this, you can see the little shotgun houses. If you see the arrow on St. Philip Street in the top slide, and then on Villeray Street, in the bottom slide, you can see the actual size of the little shotgun houses outlined in black compared to the massiveness of the parking garages that she intends to put there. And the civil court had the same kind of massing, if you remember the slide before. Next slide, please. So those people who live on St. Philip Street or Villeray Street or the school, they're going to take it on the knuckles. Her third concept is to restore the facade, completely repurpose the interior. Again, she's just going to gut the historic building, take out the concert hall, which is notable, which is why it's protected. And then she's going to repurpose everything, again, build a civil court and a new city hall. She's changed the game up slightly with this, and of course, the parking garages. So let's go to concept 3. In this case, the city hall would then face the small houses on Villeray Street, again, St. Philip Street, and the school with 7A get the garage, and then the civil court farther away from the school, but not that far, not far enough to keep a disgruntled parent or relative away, is then going to be in the Municipal Auditorium. And she is now completely opening the site from St. Philip Street. So now all of the cars are going to come in front of the school, come through St. Philip Street, which is closed. We can't use that. We've asked to use that street and that passageway for people who use the community center, particularly people who are infirm, the handicapped, and can't walk. We've been told no, but now she's going to open it to accommodate her building and the 2,600 cars that she intends to put on the site. So this is not good for us. And then she's going to build a 10-story. You can see 10-story City Hall. So if you live in a 1-story house, then City Hall is going to be 10 times as tall as your house. Those people who bought those properties, again, did not bargain for that when they purchased those homes. Next slide. Again, you can see the massiveness of the site does not change. Again, the outlines of the little tiny houses on St. Philip and Villeray facing these garages, facing these massive buildings. It's totally out of scale and totally out of character for our neighborhood, and we don't want that in TREME. Next slide. The cost, next. In order to refurbish 1,300 Perdido is the current City Hall, and the mayor estimates that it'll cost $155 million to restore that building. But wait, we have a bargain with the auditorium. It's only going to cost $171 million to totally gut and rehab that building. But we have $38 million in dedicated FEMA funding, which means it has to be used for the Municipal Auditorium. But there's a $133 million shortfall. The question becomes, where does she get that money from? Is she going to float bonds, which means we're paying back for the loan? Is she going to use block grant funds, which typically fund programs, particularly for underprivileged people and children? So are we going to lose that? Is she going to use COVID funding? We don't know where she's going to get the money from. So that is a question that we feel the city must answer. Next slide. I thought it would be interesting to compare the city halls, thank you, and the Municipal Auditorium, which is the slide on the left in the park, is the proposed city hall. And I wanted to look at how things look. So it's an apples to apples comparison. Our city hall terminates a vista. So when you come down the street, and this is Basin Street, it stops your view. It says, "Here I am the authority." It's a short building, but you can see it spans the street. Philadelphia is very similar. I lived in Philadelphia for many years. It's a city that I love, but you can't go north, south, east, or west in downtown Philadelphia without encountering City Hall. It takes its place in a downtown and establishes itself as the seat of authority, just like our City Hall does. Both New Orleans currently and Philadelphia have city halls in their downtown, in their central business districts. The auditorium on my left, you can see terminates the vista, but you can't see it. It's hidden behind trees, and those are the trees of Congo Square. So what you see as you go down, this is Orleans Avenue, two things. You can't see City Hall, and you'll never see it. And actually, the closer you get to it, the more obscure it is because you see more of the trees in Congo Square. But also, this is a residential street. You can see that the mayor wants to locate our city hall in a residential district. And I would argue that that is inappropriate for a seat of government. And with that, I will turn the mic over to my colleagues. Thank you. You're muted. Ty, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That was very detailed and extremely informative, and I think it really gave the participating viewing and listening audience a better understanding of really what's at stake here. It's more than just Congo Square and that culture, but indeed the community, the first free Black community in America. And so I want to bring Osetowa on next, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Thank you, DivinePrince, and greetings to your audience. I bring you greetings from Ifawole, way down south in the Big Easy, where right now it doesn't appear to be so easy, but I'm here as a testimony to let you know that the revolution will be televised. Gil Scott Heron said it would not be, but I'm here to say it will be televised. We're in a different world now, 2021, where social media and documentation is the parkour for today. We have been united. I am a native-born New Orleanian. I am representing a myriad of organizations. I'm only going to talk about the purpose for today. But as a culture bearer and a community activist, this issue resonates with the entire New Orleans area, because the incidents that Miss Cheryl described with the rag man in the morning time and the watermelon man, that was all throughout New Orleans. And all throughout New Orleans, we are experiencing this gentrification process. But we have decided that enough is enough, and that we are going to fight for our cultural epicenter, which is the Louis Armstrong Park that houses Congo Square and the Morris F.X. Jeff Municipal Auditorium. We have been having community meetings. We have initiated a petition. For those of you guys who have not signed our petition, I encourage you to go to change.org under Stop the Mayor, Move to City Hall, or you can go to the New Orleans Cultural Preservation Committee page on Facebook and click on the link. We're now at 9,000 signatures. It's growing every day. It is important that we go global with this petition, because we want the mayor and city administrators to recognize that this issue is not just important to the local residents, it's particularly important to them, to us, but it's also impacting the world, because everybody hears about New Orleans. Everybody hears about jazz and the birthplace. Everybody hears about TREME, Congo Square. So the fact that she even is considering to desecrate the whole area is beyond all of our compensation. We are having a massive Stop the Move to City Hall march and rally on Thursday, June 17th, 2021. It's going to start in Congress Square. We're asking for people to gather at 4:30. The rally will start at 5, but we need to gather at 4:30 because we want to get to City Hall by 6 o'clock. We are calling for a diverse coalition of civic organizations, educational organizations, motorcycle clubs, horseback riders, baby dolls, Mardi Gras Indians, anybody who feels compelled that you want to have your voice heard. It is really extremely important. I began my presentation at the last meeting saying, who's got the power? I think it's interesting that politicians think that community residents don't have power. But I'm here to say, we got some power. Because I'm calling on all the Egun and all the warriors, Ogun, Ochosi, and Ilegba, to help us with this battle, because this is a righteous fight. This is a righteous fight. And our God will be on the side of righteousness. And I believe that, combined with the power of a people united, there's no way that we can lose. There's no way that we will not be victorious. So I implore you guys, if you want to benefit, donate to our cause. You can go to Cash App, TREME66, that's the $, TREME, TREME 66, to help us with some costs that we have. We appreciate all of your efforts. We appreciate your time. And if you can, share. If you've already signed the petition, share it with someone else, because I am amazed that every time I talk about this, somebody who is not aware of what's going on. This is my last point. When we first started this fight, we only heard that she wanted to move the City Hall into the auditorium. Whereas Amy just showed you, that's not their plan. It's far more sinister than that. So once we discovered that that's what the plan was, it was actually a no-brainer. And it's something to be said when the mamas rise up. See, when the mamas rise up, it's time for everybody to bow down, Divine Prince. You know how that go. When your mama stand up and say enough is enough, enough is enough. Who got the power? Oh, we got the power. Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe. I had to unmute myself again. We got the power. Ashe.
Right.
I want to allow my other panelists. Morgan, did you have something you wanted to say? You can always unmute yourself. And as well as Raymond Sweet, if you had a comment, a question, something you also wanted to add to the discussion, we would greatly appreciate that. Of course, my cousins. Come on in, Morgan.
Hey, thank you, Divine Prince Ty, and thank you for sending out all those prayers and blessings. We really need that. I apologize, first of all, that I can't be on camera. I have a very old computer and having some technical issues. And I want to thank all of our coalition members for doing such great work, and Amy, her incredible presentation, because that is what's really waking up people around the city. I'm a born and bred New Orleanian, French Quarter and Treme, and I was fortunate enough to live in the French Quarter before the massive change to tourism and condos, and it really was the last vestiges of what the quarter was and what that original city was, the diversity of the people, just the multicultural aspects of it. After our family was priced out of the French Quarter, we moved to Treme. And I have to say that, I've lived a very fortunate and blessed life to have known and worked with so many of our cultural bearers and have been in the advocacy and activist world around culture in our city for 40 years. So this is a pivotal moment for our city, our culture, and that is why we all need to unite. I want to share something with you that means a lot to me, because when I walk through our city, when I walk through the Treme, through the park, through Congo Square, really all over our city, Claiborne, I feel our ancestors, the people I know that have passed, you know, they're still here and they're still with us, and we miss them, but we also are standing on their shoulders and have to fight this fight to preserve their history and their honor and the work that they did. Let me share this with you. It could be said that all sacred things must have their place. It could even be said that being in their place is what makes them sacred. For if they were taken out of their place, even in thought, the entire order of the universe would be destroyed. Sacred objects therefore contribute to the maintenance of order in the universe by occupying the spaces allocated to them. So when we think about that, the site that we're discussing right now has been a sacred space for literally thousands of years. You know, the indigenous people, that was a sacred land. And as the city of New Orleans was founded and grew, the ramparts of the city were, you know, where Rampart Street is now. And Congo Square and the plains there became another sacred space, and literally the spiritual and literal home of our music, our culture, and everything that we still carry on today. In spite of all of the onslaughts and the injustices, it's amazing and really wonderful that our culture continues to survive. That we always have to keep fighting these fights. But that site is especially poignant for all of the injustices that have been done there. And all of the people, their lives and their spirits are still there. When we talk about City Hall, the current City Hall was built in the late 1950s as a shining new example of you know, civic wonder and amazement. But what they did there was they tore down a Black neighborhood called, you know, some people call it Back of Town. Louis Armstrong called it the battlefield. Some people call it Blackstorville. But literally, Louis Armstrong's childhood home was razed to build that seat of government. And to this day, there is no plaque or mention of him. So then we created Louis Armstrong Park. And in that creation, there was destruction. So now we have something that honors him. We have the beautiful statue. We have this beautiful space. And now his spirit and his honor is under attack again. You know, government is the business of the people. And our culture is the heart and soul, the breath and the life of the people. And we have to respect that and honor that. So when we talk about the seat of government, it should not be in this cultural space. And I think so many people recognize that. So we are absolutely standing against City Hall moving to that space. And we're standing for a revitalization and reculturalization and investment in that cultural space. Because that is the process with this money that's tied to the Morris FX Jeff Auditorium. You know, the mayor hijacking that money for City Hall is just is unbelievable. So we need to actually fight for that money to stay with the Morris FX Jeff Auditorium and start the process to bring the culture back to that space. And there's many memories and people's lives attached to all of that space. And one point that we don't bring up much is the historic buildings there that remained after one phase of destruction. The Masonic Temple, Perseverance Hall, 1890. That's the oldest Masonic temple in Louisiana. So we have, again, the Roots of Music Garden, the Jazz Grove, which as a child, I went every Sunday to see Papa Celestin, you know. So we have so many things we need to work for. And I just appreciate that we are all coming together for this, to fight this issue. And it's going to be a fight. So we need everybody. Thank you so much.
If you can, Morgan, can you please further elaborate on how non-locals can also participate. I don't want people to feel as if, you know, those who are located internationally or even nationally don't have a voice in this. So is there somewhere that they can participate as well as signing the petition? Is there someone they can write letters to? Is there somewhere that they can write emails to?
Absolutely. And that is a very big point. As Asadewa pointed out earlier, the New Orleans Cultural Preservation Committee's change.org petition has over 9,000 signatures. And many of those folks are from around the world, because sometimes it seems that people from other places respect and appreciate our culture more than our own city sometimes. And they have a voice in that petition. They can also write our mayor at Mayor Cantrell, Cantrell, at NOLA.gov. They can visit our For NOLA Culture Facebook, and also the respective coalition members all have Facebook pages. And I think that those letters to the mayor, I think, would be very impactful, because she needs to hear from people.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Cousin Oloye Ifawole, did you have something to say, and particularly about sacred spaces and maintaining sacred spaces?
Absolutely. I give honor and praise to each and every one of you who are fighting this battle. And I want to give honor and praise and a prayer from Ogun that will help to fight the battle and bring everything to justice, we hope. Ogun, the powerful one, sufficiently great to stand before death, one who makes human beings prosperous, one who is not enriched by Ogun will find it difficult to get sacrificial kola nuts. Ogun, enrich me. Ogun, the powerful one, the strong one of the earth, the strong one of the great one of the other world, the protector of those who are being injured. Ogun supports me. Ashe. May Ogun bring his power. May he bring and cut away any and all things that are not in alignment with those who are fighting on the behalf of justice, on the behalf of keeping alive culture and the spirit of our ancestors. May Ogun slice them away, and cut anything that will not help our people to grow and expand and evolve. And so I say, like, on behalf of those who practice the traditional spirituality, from anything from Voodoo to Ifa, Louisiana Voodoo, any of the spiritual traditions of our people, that it's important for us all to be a part of this movement as well. For this, in this movement in Congo Square, we also find that we hold the traditions of our spiritual systems there. The ancestors who are there hold these memories and all of the wisdom and knowledge of these traditions there. And so I believe that from the space or the standpoint of those of us who are in ATR, that this is a sacred space. And we know how important sacred space is to those of us that practice the tradition. It is a place that we can honor. It's a place that we have to hold divine divine place, divine spirit, divine everything within us, in order for us to preserve that which has come before from the people. Our elders, our ancestors, they've fought this fight, and they've kept these traditions alive for us to now move forward with them all. And so Congo Square holds that value. It holds that premise. It is a sacred place for us all. And so on behalf of those who practice ATR, I hope that more and more and more Babalao, Ianifa, any of the priests will be involved with this. Anytime that any of us come from out of town, that is one of the places that we all go to, because it's important that we are all honoring our ancestors and honoring all of the traditions that are present. And so on behalf of those who practice ATR, I hope that many of us will get involved somehow and to assist in the movement with all of these warriors who are present today, all of our divine mothers, our divine feminine, to to move forward with this. So I hope that this prayer will be helpful in manifestation of the fight. Ogun in Africa is the Orisha that they don't put their hand on the Bible. They put their hands on the sword of Ogun. And so let us put our hands on the sword of Ogun, that Ogun will cut away anything and anyone meant to do harm to us, our culture, our ancestors, or anyone, anything that is in alignment with that which is not good for our people.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe, Ashe. I stand and affirm in an agreement. And for some of you that speak another language, where two or more I shall be in the midst. Where two or more gathered, I shall be in the midst of them. Two or more touch and agree, we can create and recreate power. We certainly appreciate you, Nina Lloyd. And if you will, copy and paste Mayor Cantrell at NOLA.gov. Mayor Cantrell, Cantrell at NOLA.gov, and write her. Also, get on your Google, get on your Bing, find out the city council members, and also email and write them as well. I also put 1300 Perdido Street, second floor, New Orleans, Louisiana. I believe that zip code is 70130. I think that's the zip code.
I think it might be 70116.
70116.
Possibly.
70116. So it should make its way there. I asked any of my co-hosts, Asetua, you seem to be on the move. Did you have something you wanted to say and share?
I want to, first of all, I want to thank the brother that offered the prayer to Ogun, and I want to inform him that we do have some participants, some Babalaos, some priests who have done some reading and are doing some work, some spiritual work on our behalf. But we're welcoming all those who can work on the other side, because we recognize that this is going to take a combined effort in order for us to be successful. It is extremely important. Now, also, my last point, when we talk about the sacred space, it goes beyond just being Congo Square and enslaved Africans. Prior to being that, it was the space for the indigenous people, the Chitamacha, the Choctaw, the Homa, and other names that we don't even know to this day. Indigenous people who are Black people. Prior to enslaved Africans coming, it was a sacred space for their festivals, their gathering spaces. They buried their dead. This is also a First People sacred space, as well as with our African ancestors. But keep it in mind, I relate to the indigenous people as being my ancestors as well. My family is Cherokee. I'm a member of the Washita Empirical Nation, and it is important that this entire space does not get desecrated. People in power are strange people. They really believe that they have privilege to decide in the name of urban renewal to do what they think is best for us. And I just give thanks that Divine Prince, that you have this outreach of people throughout the entire world to call this attention to what is going on in Washington. And I thank you for that.
Well, indeed,
I'd just like to
I'm honored and appreciative to be able to provide a platform where we can expand our reach. So I'm grateful.
Can I just say one thing? I would like for all of us all over the world to think of our neighborhoods, particularly Black neighborhoods, as our Black space, and think of our neighborhoods as sacred space. More often than not, Black people take what's given to them any kind of way, and we don't think of our neighborhoods as places to be cherished. I would ask that we rethink how we think our environments, and think of those environments, no matter how they look at this point, as sacred spaces. And when we change how we think about our environments and the environments for Black people, then I think our lives will change. So thank you for having us on.
Thank you. Again, I'm grateful to be able to provide the space to do so. My cousin Otun, beloved, did you have a comment or something you want to share?
I do. Abura Boye, Boshishe, Divine Prince, Baba Oloye, all of the distinguished guests on the panel today. In listening to everything, it is sad to hear, but I do feel good knowing and seeing everyone coming together to do things. The only comment I would like to add as I sit here and listen and I'm praying and I'm listening and I'm feeling the energy, I will say this. Everything that's going on as far as the petitioning and the protest and what Divine Prince is doing here on his platform, all of that, people bringing the plans, awareness, even old plans that they thought was deleted, all of that is good. The only thing that I encourage you to add is whatever gatherings are being planned to bring attention to her, especially if it's going to be a gathering outside of the current city hall, if it's going to be a gathering in the locations or in any of the locations that the plans have involved. I just feel that a lot of the things, use every tool that we have at our disposal. We have a lot of powerful weapons that even some of us have forgotten about. What am I speaking to? Music. When you have those protests, when you gather in those places, you want to call your ancestors, you get out there in them spaces that they want to tear down. You don't just speak, you get them drummers out there. And I am telling you that I was told to tell you to play. You want your ancestors to show up and show out? You get them drummers out there. You have them play. The whole time you speaking, it should be something beating in your background, and you call to them and you tell them this is not a time for no one to stay silent. They need to rise up, show up, and show out. And you beat those drums and beat those drums and beat those drums. So when them people go to sleep at night, all they hear is drums. And when they wake up, they just want to get away from the drums, because everywhere they go, everywhere they sleep, everywhere they nap, everything they think, they'll be talking and the word drummer come out their mouth. Drum, play. They said play, yes. And we will come.
For real.
We will.
I want to add to that as well, that on Sunday during the Congo Square gathering, Luther invited the mayor to come and dance in Congo Square. He's assured that if she's in that space and she's a part of that rhythm and she feels that energy, that there's no way that she can continue to move in the way that she's moving. So again, Mayor Cantrell, beloved Mayor Cantrell, we're offering you the open invitation to come on down and join us and be a part of this that we're fighting so strongly for. You know, next Sunday, you know, we'll make space for you. You'll be safe in that space, but come and feel the rhythm, be a part of the vibration, be a part of the energy, hear the voices and feel the heartbeats of the community. It's an open invitation, and we invite her to do so. Cheryl, did you have more that you wanted to say or offer? And I want to welcome my mom. Greetings, Mom. Thank you so much for being with us. I love it when my mom shows up.
Greetings to your queen mother. Greetings, Mama.
Cheryl is frozen. Oh, wow.
I'd like to say something, if possible.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Otun, for that beautiful, beautiful encouragement and call to action, because it is so true. The music will call the spirits and will make this move. I'd also like to say for Mayor Cantrell, you know, some of her public comments have been, and her administration's comments have said, they think this is an investment in the neighborhood. They think it will be wonderful for the culture. And one thing that we can do for her is to say, obviously, no, that's not the legacy you want to leave. But you could leave a wonderful legacy by reinvesting in that space as it was intended to be used. So as we oppose, we also need to be for something. And to give her that space to say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I can change. I can do better. I can listen to the people. I can come to the neighborhood. I can be part of this. So, yeah, I really think that's a strong message as well. And I also want to send my, my thoughts out to Black Hawk, because the spirit of Black Hawk was so much a part of our growing up, and the spiritual churches in the quarter on Burgundy Street and in the Treme that we don't see much of anymore. So I thank you, DivinePrince Ty, for being there, because that is again a loss that we now have you to thank for reviving that. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. And I do it all for the community. It's never about me. It's not about me elevating myself. It's not about me being seen. It's indeed for the community and the heartbeat and the blood that flows through this community still to this day. I also believe we need to acknowledge those residents and ancestors who are no longer in the neighborhood, who already got pushed out, who already sold their properties, or may indeed be ancestors on the other side who are now watching what's left of their cultural footprint be encroached upon. So indeed, we call on Black Hawk. Indeed, we call on Saint Milo, the Maroon. Indeed, we call on those freedom fighters and those warriors that Osetewa invoked just a while ago to stand with us and to fight with us. And indeed, it's in the blood, it's in the ritual, it's in the drumming, it's in the dance. But as Morgan suggests, it's in taking action, doing something more than just signing the petition, doing something more than just, symbolic references. We need to be actively involved in this fight, in this movement. Cheryl is back with us. She's no longer frozen. Did you have something you want to say, Cheryl?
Yeah, my mic is back on now. We have no other choice because we live at that site. Those people are still here. The spirits and our ancestors that congregated in Congo Square. As a child, I didn't know what I felt. Something to still be living here in Treme, to still be fighting a fight that should have been won years ago. They will not let us rest. We can't rest. A fair, equitable resolution is given. And that's all that we're asking. No one needs to be sitting in the footprint of a compound of political activity day in and day out. It is just not the way people are supposed to be living. And Congo Square definitely is not the place for government to sit. It's always been trampled on. Outside of Congo Square, the 6th Ward Treme has been trampled on. We are fighting with short-term rentals right now. We've always fought just to have economic development. Treme has been redlined for years when our culture was here. It's been redlined out to the French quarters. Our ancestors won't let us rest. Sometimes it just scares me when I feel like something jumped in my body and I'm like, why me? Give it to somebody else. Why us? Because we are here. We feel them. We live with them. And Divine, you have been a good and beautiful person. I hope your mom know how special you are. Well, I know she know how special you are. If you're here on this podcast helping us to move this information forward. And I feel so blessed, and I am so thankful for everyone, especially the people that we're working with to stop the mayor from relocating at the Municipal Auditorium. We can't stop, but the decision as to what is going to be settled there, that's what needs to stop once and for all. We can't keep going back and forth another 60 years as to what should actually happen there. And our culture should be celebrated. That's what should actually happen there. So thank you again. Thank everyone for joining us.
You're muted.
Thank you. Anyone else on the panel have any more commentary you would like to share, you would offer? I know you said you would only be here an hour, but it seems like we all have stayed a little bit, past that. And I'm grateful. I told Cheryl I wanted to give you all as much time and space as you need. When they're done and they're ready to disperse, I'm going to share a video about TREME it's a TREME documentary called Entry. And it's set about a decade, maybe a little bit more ago. And it's talking about exactly what we're talking about now. The encroachment on the culture, the encroachment on TREME, the disbursement of the residents that have held the culture together in this community. It even goes into detail about Airbnbs and how that has affected us in this community. And I'm going to play that towards the end after my panel and guests. And of course, we've answered all your questions, comments, and requests. So Cheryl and Amy and Osetawa, it's really your platform. When you're ready, please, offer your peace and blessings, and you're free to move on with your daily schedule, and then I'll play the video.
Right. Well, I'm on the road, so I will offer my peace and blessings and thanks to everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. DivinePrince, I pass your house all the time. Now I know who you are, but I have hollered at you because you've had on some outfits that I admire. So glad to finally meet you, not in person, but that'll come soon. And thank you, audience, for listening to us. And please help us if you can. And with that, I'm going to sign off and get back on the road.
Thank you kindly. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Peace and blessings.
Peace.
Osetawa, Cheryl.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm on the road, but I just want to let the audience know that recognize that this fight that we're fighting, it's happening all throughout the United States. There's so many examples of spaces, neighborhoods where people live that are better. So we recognize that we're not alone, and we just appreciate having space to put what our struggle is out into the cosmic forces, so that the energy can spread and unite with other struggles that are happening in the United States, in the world, with people of color. We recognize that in New Orleans, this is only one small fight in a big list of fights, but we are focused on this particular one because of the significance of not just the space, but of New Orleans. We recognize when Katrina happened, and many of the people who make New Orleans, it was the first time that the culture went from our culture, being Black people culture, to the city saying our culture. Because a long time they were not embracing the culture that comes to New Orleans to visit. They come to New Orleans to eat our food. They come to see the pageantry of the Black masking Indians and the baby dolls and the skull and bones and second line bands. They come here for that special feeling that they get of hospitality. And so urban renewal appears to be threatening the very what that is all about. And like I said, I recognize that this is happening all over the United States. So we are mindful that The spirits will not let us rest. I'm sorry, Cheryl, you're not going to be able to rest because somebody has got to pick up the mantle and somebody's got to do the fight. And I give thanks. And I know we will be victorious. We will be victorious. Because, like I said before, who got the power?
We got the power.
We got the power.
We got the power.
Thank you so much for being with us, Osetowa. Enjoy your day. All
right.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
So we do have a follow-up meeting at 4 o'clock today. Oh, okay. Oh, I was just saying we do have a follow-up meeting at 4 o'clock today, so I am going to have to get off. I do thank everyone once again for being part of the podcast. And if you are in New Orleans this long weekend, we have an event. Some drums will be beaded. They'll be beaded on Saturday at Tubafest Square. To 7, we'll be out there passing out information. The mayor needs to be stopped from relocating to the Municipal Auditorium. That's at St. Philip and North Robinson in the heart of TREME. So if you all would like to come out and just congregate, talk, discuss, welcome. Music, food, and advocacy. That's what it's about. Thank you all.
Thank you. And that's Tubafest Square, the historic Tubafest Square, this Saturday. Thank you so much for that, Cheryl.
Yes.
Morgan, did you have any closing words, Morgan?
Yes, I did, and thanks again for allowing us to be with you and your audience today. And absolutely, we do need everybody's prayers and their letters to Mayor Cantrell at NOLA.gov. The more people she hears from directly is going to make a difference. So take that 5 minutes and write her your thoughts. I can't stress enough how important that is. Again, and so we look forward to seeing everybody. We are trying to keep this issue out in public because the fast track is on, as Amy showed. So we're going to need to stop this pretty quickly. So we hope to see you at Tubafest Square and in the universe. And thank you again.
Thank you kindly. We appreciate you. Cousins, Oloye, Otun, do you have any final words before I move on to the video?
Not really. Just that I reiterate the hope that those in the African traditional spirituality genre, we will all, and also I was thinking all of the churches, all of the mosques, all of the other spiritual affiliations that are out there, to all see the importance behind maintaining this area and behind the spiritual connotation of this area and our ancestors as well, in all of the different cultures and communities there, that everybody take part and everybody really get down with this so that we can save aspects of our culture, save our ancestors, save that which, you know, they've worked so hard to do for us. Let us all get in together and get in this fight. May Ogun, may he clear the way, may he clear obstacles, may he bring his power and his might to this fight, and may all of what he brings forth, may it all manifest. Ogunye moye.
Ashe.
Otun,
did you have any last comments? And then I'm going to move on to the video.
I guess the only thing I'm going to say is that today has been powerful. I definitely have some people that I'm going to reach out to and pass this information along. I just want to encourage everyone to continue the work. You know, in a church, they say faith without works is dead. That's why our ancestors are shaking, jumping, and moving, Mama Cheryl, is because they're saying, okay, we're going to show up, but you got to do a little something too. We can't just sit back and go, I'm going to just pray and my ancestors going to get them. You better get your behind up off that couch and shake your shimmy right along with them. It's the time for sitting back and watching is over. Either you going to do something or you going to hush and sit down and get out the way. But when you sit down, you can't say nothing either. So they're letting us know we here. Are you here? Are you ready to stand like they are? Because they done showed up, showed out, and some of them gave their lives fighting. Not to say that that's the extent that you need to go, but you need to show them that you're willing to get where they are, and that you're willing to meet them with their work and push from this side if they pushing from that side. So let's push together, meet in the middle, and get this done. I do believe it's going to be successful. Let me back that up. It will be successful. And that's another part in changing our mindset. Stop using the word if. It implies the possibility of failure. Say when. Okay, so when this gets done, then it will be a time for rejoicing. And beat them drums whether shorty show up or not. Whether she there or not. If she's there, great. If she's not, beat them even harder.
There you go. But
that's all I have to say. Love to everybody. Love to you all.
Peace and blessings.
I'm going to beat our drums because the people that was on here today, we feel you all, and the ones that were also co-hosts, we really have no other choice. I stand on the shoulders of Mr. Jim Hayes that stopped the last couple of blocks from being destroyed. I really have no other choice. And as a kid walking through Congo, where my mom tried to wear us out, we laid in Congo Square, looked up at the stars, not realizing where we were at. It was years later. I have no other choice. And this is I'll move, I'll jump, I'll holler. Matter of fact, before getting on a podcast, show you how the Lord bless you. I've met with Miss Allison Comer. She works with the mayor. She was at the TREME Center. To remind her, the first conversation I had with you was about the destruction of those blocks over there. And now you're telling me the mayor say this is where she wants to go. This is where City Hall has to be. She never lived in TREME. Otherwise, she wouldn't even think like that. It is a magical place. It's a hard place, but it's a magical place. Everything in TREME was so organic from the beginning, with the slaves congregating on the rampart right there, across from the original city. All the redlining, all the bad talk about don't cross, don't go over there, you're gonna get killed. We are still here. We have not left, and I doubt if we will be leaving. But the politician's only here for a short time. She won't even be in office to enjoy that building. It's going to take 4 to 5 years. So who are you relocating for? It's not for us, because we told you we don't want it there. We told you before you conceived the idea or the idea was put into your head and mind, what we wanted to see at that site, our culture to flourish, our stories to be told, our history to be appreciated. And we're not sorry that you don't understand it. We just don't want you there. We understand it. So jump in me. I love the second line. I love to hear the drums beat in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping, and the second line come through and they say, oh, somebody just died. Yes. I have no problem with that. My mom was like that too. So I don't have a problem with it. And I really appreciate you all sending out that love to us. We will be victorious with the help of the Lord. We will be. And with the help of our ancestors and our families that stand by us. So thank you all once again. And I'm playing host myself at 4 o'clock, so I do have to leave. But thank you again, and hopefully we can meet in person. I'm right here in TREME. I'm down the street from Ty, right across the street from the Armstrong Park, at the back of the Mahalia Jackson building. So all you have to do is walk in TREME. You'll probably see me.
Yes. We're grateful for you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. And I'm with you. I got a set of clothes. Thank you. And I'm with you. I have a set of clothes that I'm ready to jump into when I hear that brass band coming at 10 o'clock or at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll be out there. So I'm with you on that, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm now going to share, and for some of you, reshare a video that I played around 10:30 this morning.
Thank you.
The broadcast. And it is called TREME. It's a TREME documentary called Entry.
Jonathan says he wrote the song Down in the Treme on these steps. Now, if you've heard the song is about the energy and the culture, the vibrancy, kids running through the street, music playing till 2 in the morning. It was so inspirational.
Well, like the house that's no longer here, that energy is now gone. Over the course of 30 minutes, we ask what happened to Treme and how does a culture thrive in the neighborhood that some say has died.
It's Sunday in New Orleans, and there's energy surging through the streets of Treme.
Today's a beautiful day. You ready? All right, you gonna walk it all? Pray.
It's a familiar sound and smell, and as time passes, a growing excitement. A crowd gathers in the streets, anxiously awaiting the call of a drum. The sound signifies it's time to second line. The Black Men of Labor has paraded for more than 25 years after the death of famed musician Danny Barker, who believed in upholding the traditional jazz standard.
Danny single-handedly cultivated the traditional brass band music because it was dying. Danny said, if we don't teach these young guys how to play this music, through attrition, we're gonna lose.
And as tradition would have it, the Social Aid and Pleasure Club's second line through Faubourg Treme, considered sacred ground to many. But when the music slows down during the dirge, mourning ensues. The parade moves somberly down the street, some remembering the death of a friend, loved one, musician, or public figure. Others mourning the death of a neighborhood.
This is not mystery. This is our history. It's all about the culture.
From Esplanade to St. Louis, Broad to North Rampart, Treme is considered ground zero for culture and activism in America. The oldest integrated neighborhood, free people of color thrived with more than 80% owning land in Treme during slavery in the Deep South. It's home to one of the earliest known civil rights movements in the South, dating back to the 19th century, when residents formed the Citizens Committee selecting Treme resident Homer Plessy to directly challenge segregated railroad car laws in Louisiana. Plessy versus Ferguson would lead to the separate but equal doctrine we know as Jim Crow laws, and businesses line the streets of Claiborne Avenue, providing a solid economic base for Treme. And then there's the music. From Louis Armstrong playing in the red light district known as Storyville and jazz clarinetist Alphonse Picou, to Benny Jones striking up with the Treme Brass Band and trombone Shorty picking up his first horn, jazz was born on these streets and passed down from generation to generation.
I can remember seeing trombone Shorty and his little brass band in diapers playing on Shorty. Yeah. Playing on plastic trombones and beating on pots and boxes.
Musicians, educators, artists, craftsmen, political activists, all would find themselves immersed in one of New Orleans' first suburbs, the neighborhood that was the multicultural epicenter of New Orleans.
Good evening, everybody.
including Kermit Ruffins.
Musically, do you think New Orleans would be what it is without Treme?
I'm quite sure that Treme contribute at least 65 to 75% of this culture as far as jazz is concerned, and the birthplace of jazz in New Orleans.
Treme brought the world-renowned musician to the neighborhood when he was just 18 years old, just a few miles down from the Lower Ninth Ward.
I fell in love with it, and I never went back to the Lower Ninth Ward. I wanted to wake up in the heart of the Treme, where the music was real popular and real vibrant. I mean, on any given day, it would look like Mardi Gras at 9 in the morning.
Well, what is Treme right now?
Treme was one of the best neighborhoods in America.
Treme, as we know it, is dead. It has died.
Why do you say that?
Because all the juice has been, all the oxygen has been sucked out of the room. The cultural oxygen, the children, the raison d'etre that we once woke up in the morning and lived for. Hey, Shaq. Hey, Lava, how you doing, man? Let's go.
Like the second lines that passed through the neighborhood, those who used to call Treme home say culture has become transient, leaving it with no sense of community. But where did Treme's soul go? According to the culture bearers, it left, right along with those who call the neighborhood home. Some willingly, others unwillingly.
The part of the Treme that I knew coming up is that it's gone. The folks aren't there anymore. There's unless you bring those people back, you'll never have that part of the Treme again. We may never meet again.
Jazz vocalist John Boutte has long been a vocal critic of the changes happening in Treme, changes he says forced out some of the poorest people who provide some of the richest cultural experiences. After Hurricane Katrina, a song he recorded about his life in Treme had resurfaced on the HBO series bearing the same name.
When you wrote that song,
yes,
what you kind of had a resurgence with Treme.
Right. Well, you know what? I wrote that song in 1993, and nobody cared about Treme.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about Treme.
Oh, we all
The series featured musicians and characters throughout New Orleans as they attempted to recover after Hurricane Katrina. One of those musicians is Benny Jones, founder of the Treme Brass Band.
So they hired a bunch of people in the neighborhood. I was in the Treme series twice. I was in 2 series with the Treme movie. It really helped people out and got a chance to see what really went on in the neighborhood.
They painted this mural.
They painted a mural.
Benny was born in Treme, starting the Dirty Dozen Brass Band before branching off to start the Treme Brass Band. But even Benny can't deny the portrayal of Treme on screen, on the internet, just about anywhere, versus the reality of Treme in 2019 present a stark difference.
So what is it like now?
Oh, it's gone. Oh, that's gone.
Architecture, bars, restaurants, neighbors, all gone, leaving Treme as a shadow of its former self. So what happened to Treme? Those who lived through it blame a myriad of issues, all in the name of urban renewal.
It was known as a Place Publique, a public place, before it was known as Congo Square. It was known by the Spaniards from the 1760s when they took over Louisiana as Place de los Negros, black place. But of course, become known later as Congo Square, where the indigenous were allowed to congregate.
When you
look at a neighborhood and what took it down, it's never one thing, it's a gumboard thing. But I can tell you unequivocally, nothing traumatized the TREME more than the building of the I-10.
North Claiborne was home to a bustling business district. It was estimated more than 120 businesses ran along the corridor and hundreds of oak trees. But to build the highway, the state took over several properties along Claiborne between Tulane and St. Bernard Avenue. Some refer to it as the monster. The building of the I-10 overpass over North Claiborne sent the business district into economic decline. Today, only a few dozen businesses still stand. Charbonnet Funeral Home is one of them, sitting along Claiborne Avenue since 1883.
It ran all the family-owned black businesses away. What Magazine Street is now, Claiborne Avenue used to be like that. I mean, with all kind of African-American owned businesses, insurance companies, grocery stores, all that left when the interstate came along.
The elevated highway plan proposed in the 40s was to include Claiborne Avenue and a highway that would have gone from Elysian Fields along the riverfront and front of Jackson Square to Canal Street. It would then descend into a tunnel. It would have been called the Vieux Carré Riverfront Expressway, but French Quarter preservationists fought that plan for decades. In 1969, they won their battle. But the opposition of those living in TREME wasn't enough to stop the plans from moving forward there. In 1966, crews began to destroy the neutral ground, replacing oak trees with tall cement pillars.
And we used to have kids playing, and we had the neutral ground on Claiborne Avenue, which was the largest and prettiest neutral ground in the city, where we used to play and had oak trees in these areas, and it was just a wonderful place to grow up in.
Today, the only sign of oak trees are those painted on the pillars beneath the highway.
Claiborne Avenue.
Dr. Raynard Sanders and other preservationists started the Claiborne Avenue History Project as a way to remember what this street was to TREME.
And every community has a commercial hub. Now in New Orleans, we had several of them that serviced the black community, but none like Claiborne Avenue.
The expressway wasn't the first assault on TREME. The state and federal government implemented urban renewal plans that would displace hundreds of African-American families from their homes.
Why do you feel as though TREME was considered dispensable?
You look at the notion of, well, there are African-Americans there, people of color that's free. You know, some people would not necessarily place a higher value on individuals living in those neighborhoods.
Gentrification of the TREME neighborhood would begin with the building of the Municipal Auditorium, tearing down the historic TREME market. That was in the 30s. Each decade after, urban renewal projects targeted TREME and surrounding communities. Initially thought of in the 20s, plans to build a cultural complex in the space that now houses Armstrong Park resurfaced in the 60s. Dozens of city blocks in TREME were leveled.
It was supposed to be the Opera Center.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. Then they talked about making it an amusement type park like Tivoli Gardens in Europe. And that didn't work. And now it's just an open space, which is nice. But it used to be homes.
Another point of contest was the fencing of the park.
And I think that that community also felt very betrayed because there was never going to be a fence. It was really kind of sold to TREME, like this would be a beautiful green space that will be integrated into the neighborhood, and that didn't happen. And so it almost, you can see it when you drive down the street, right? It almost feels like there's a wall.
TREME residents were fed up.
Interstate comes along on Claiborne Street, wipes out our businesses. The park comes along, takes away all our businesses, and what happens to us? We get unemployment.
The TREME Community Improvement Association formed in 1969, fighting back against further destruction or displacement in the historic neighborhood under the guise of urban renewal. But it was too late. Historians estimate more than 400 families were now scattered throughout the city.
The place was torn up, folk were displaced overnight. Move in with the bulldozers.
Really?
That would not happen to any other neighborhood where we don't live.
It's still traumatic for the community and for people who had family here. So when that happened,
You lost some of all the beautiful architectural buildings and bars and houses.
Construction projects and urban renewal left the community scrambling to hold on to the fabric that made it a community. And then the perfect storm opened the floodgates to a new wave of issues, leaving Treme clinging on to what's left of its culture.
One can only imagine if Treme would have been allowed to develop parallel to that of the Maroney and Bywater. Just think of what could have happened for the folk who lived there back then. Maybe they'll still be here. Maybe they would be in business. Maybe their sons and daughters and grandkids might not be in jail for a rock or a joint. One can only imagine.
New Orleans is no stranger to storms. We face many. We've triumphed. We've mourned. But what do you do when it seems the rain just won't stop falling?
A most powerful hurricane, water attacking the city.
Water was pouring into the city.
Some would say calling New Orleans the Big Easy post-Katrina is a misnomer. The storm displaced hundreds of thousands. Some stayed away. For others, returning to the city presented a new challenge, and nowhere tougher than Treme.
I think short-term rentals really hit that neighborhood a lot harder than other communities.
City Council member Kristen Palmer represents districts most affected by short-term rentals. As residents fought to find their way back into the city post-Katrina, newcomers had been opened up to the concept of Treme and other historic districts. There was now a growing interest to live closer to the city center, attracting new residents and new investment opportunities.
Short-term rentals are to blame for the entirety of the ills of everything. But when you look at the percentage in a neighborhood, in a small neighborhood, you're literally taking units off the marketplace. And so in Treme, it definitely was impacted by a couple thousand units taken off the market.
In 2015, there were a little over 1,900 Airbnbs across the city. As of December of 2018, the number has jumped to more than 6,500. In Treme, there are almost 400 Airbnb properties, some owned by investors not living in New Orleans. Of that number, 289 are entire homes or apartments.
Within this block, within the close proximity of Charbonnet Funeral Home, how many Airbnbs do you think there are?
Oh, there must be 10 to 12.
Just within the block?
Just within the block, across the street.
And everybody was saying what about 10 years ago, oh, people come in, they're going to gentrify it, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? The gentrifiers have been gentrified.
For John Boutte, the higher cost of living in Treme post-Katrina discouraged him from returning to the neighborhood. He now lives in Lacombe, some 45 miles outside of New Orleans.
I didn't want to pay that much money for the houses which I grew up around, and I knew the real value of those.
We're in danger of losing its identity as the oldest Black subdivision in the United States.
The makeup of Treme has shifted dramatically. In 2000, Treme was 92.4% Black and 4.9% white. The latest census numbers show it now being 62.8% Black and 28.2% white.
The value of the property and versus the income has not kept pace. Folk cannot continue to earn $7.50 an hour, and the price of rent is now $1,500 a month. It just doesn't work.
Al Jackson has lived in Treme for decades.
We've got a multi-billion-dollar tourist industry. Why are folks still earning less than $8 an hour? How much money do you really need?
Still, Jackson is not critical of those investing in Treme.
So you're not opposed to
No,
Airbnbs?
not at all.
Why not?
Why should I be? No one's saying you can't do this. What they're saying is get off your duff and do it.
They have a lot of history.
The change is music to the ears of Adolph and Nija Bynum.
We feel it just needs regulation. We're not against it. We just feel like it should have been regulated a long time ago. It got out of control. And that's when I think the developers came in here, took advantage of it.
The couple started investing in the Treme neighborhood years before home prices soared.
This neighborhood was all blighted. They had no one living in it except the corner house. There was a drug culture here. And people spoke of Treme as the taboo place to go.
In an effort to change that culture, Bynum bought houses on his block.
It's a studio apartment.
Several of them, revitalized them, and put them on the market for rent.
Would you have wanted that revitalization for the people who were native to this community?
Definitely.
How do we get them back here?
Well, for one thing, I think that we got to start now. And I think part of it is home ownership. You know, part of that is people not having the knowledge and the vision about properties and not having the help to do it.
I mean, this is the music that put New Orleans on the map around the world.
And that's something Fred Johnson has worked 30 years to change.
I was fortunate enough to help a couple of people buy in the Treme.
Johnson is now the CEO of the Neighborhood Development Foundation, helping low to moderate income earners in New Orleans achieve the dream of home ownership.
Because you lived there 40 years and paid rent 40 years, that don't mean you own it.
He says skyrocketing rent left those living in Treme powerless.
Because it's like this locomotive is just running over them. And it's called economics. So they try to make it work as best they can until they can't make it work no more. Then they have to move on.
Do you feel like Treme is in danger of losing its soul?
I think it's already lost its soul.
If the soul of Treme is lost, then the fight to keep the culture born here goes on.
As a dirge, a DRG, it's a funeral procession.
Al Jackson keeps the flame burning in the Petite Jazz Museum.
The museum is my small contribution to the culture, to hope that the culture can be maintained from a memorial perspective.
We keep fighting to keep the identity, particularly the cultural identity.
Those closest to Treme say they've seen all sorts of storms, but none that washed away the city or its culture.
We're still here, we're still playing music, and it's not going to ever go away. Not completely, that's for sure.
While the demographics of Treme may have changed, you can't deny that cultural energy. It's like it rises out of the asphalt, like the second lines that pass through the streets to this day. And with musicians like Kermit Ruffins, John Boutte, and Benny Jones carrying that torch, there's no way that Treme's light will ever die. Thanks for watching Treme, Death of a Neighborhood, Survival of a Culture.